instaMERSION.
Welcome everybody back to I Am Talk. We have my good friend Janet Meinke-Lau in the house, and Janet, just thank you so much for coming on set today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, Alex, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, I always just love to recollect our first encounter. I don't think I really remember the exact first time that we met, but I just remember meeting you through my wife, probably through work, and yeah, just learning more about your passion, and we'll probably get to that later. But I know you started off as when I met you, and probably for what you're still doing right now, is you're involved in urban planning.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, your wife and I are both urban planners, and I currently work for the city and county.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And from what I understand through my intensive research on you, going on janetmeinkelau.com, that
Yes.
you also had a background in finance too.
I did, yeah, for undergrad.
Yeah, so kind of share a little bit with me about just your journey through your undergrad and kind of coming to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I studied finance and I went to business school, and my journey has definitely been like very winding. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so I picked business to, you know, make my parents happy, but like I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And I ended up majoring in finance, and I did investment banking for a year.
Oh, nice.
So you know when you do something and then you really know you don't want to do it?
Yes,
Yeah,
I've been there many times. That was consulting for me.
Okay.
And actually that was in New York as well.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so I totally understand that.
It's kind of like vibe, right?
Yeah.
You gotta tell me more about that.
I will, but this show's about you, it's not about me.
So yeah, and so then I quit banking after a year and a few internships. But after one full year out, and then I decided to teach English in Spain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had met someone that was teaching English in Brazil like the previous summer, and I was like, oh, if she can do this,
I can do
this. Yeah.
Sign me up for that.
It was amazing. I taught English in Madrid for a year.
So cool.
And then the path kind of, I don't know, sometimes you can only take like the next step, right?
Yeah.
And so then I ended up in the Netherlands the year after because I was dating this Dutch guy, and it was very serious, felt very serious. And then I went to Boston to study urban planning. Because one thing I really loved about living in Europe was how well planned the communities are, and how like the public spaces and the green, like the greenery and just things that were like really nice, and like public transportation and bike paths and things like that. The communities just felt so alive, and that's why I wanted to study urban planning, to kind of bring that, you know, to the U.S. or wherever I was like living, right, to promote that more. So I studied planning, and then my partner and I later, after grad school, we went to the Philippines for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
And then I did a little bit of planning there. But then like again, I like didn't feel that good in the Philippines. Yeah. And so I decided to leave after a couple of years. But you know, kind of like try it out and then see.
Yeah, it's the only way you can know sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And then the Philippines was a big blessing because I surfed for the first time.
No way.
In the Philippines.
I did not know that.
So like, I took my first wave, and I was like, I feel like I'm flying.
Yeah,
like it was
walking
amazing.
on water.
Yeah, it was just so incredible.
It's
right?
a surreal
and
experience.
Just like feeling like a kid again.
Wow.
Right, and so I kind of had that stuck in my head and heart, and I wanted to do more of surfing.
Yeah.
And so when I was transitioning like out of the Philippines and back to the States, I was like applying to places like New York and San Francisco, where a lot of my friends were. My family's on the East Coast. And then it took a little bit longer for me to get a job. Like it was just like a tougher time, and I kind of it gave me the space to reevaluate what I want to do. And I decided that I would love to surf. And so that's how
that was a non-negotiable right there.
Well, it was like, family, friends, and planning. I was like, okay, what about family, friends, planning, and surf? What if I can just have two of the three? Yeah. Right. And so then that opened it up, and I started applying to places, including Hawaii, and I'd never been here. Whoa. And so when I got the job offer here, I actually got two job offers in 1 week, and I had no family and friends here. I didn't know anyone in Hawaii. I was like, well, there's surf, right? And there's the job, and so it was kind of like someone was telling me, I think you should go to Hawaii.
Yeah. That's such a cool story. I never knew about the Philippines, and just even learning how to surf over there, and just having that kind of lead you towards your next steps over here.
Right. You don't realize it until, you know, you look back. But I think at the time, if you just kind of go in the direction where your heart pulls you, or you know what you're like telling yourself, right? It's like more of like a feeling, I think.
Sure.
So then surfing brought me, and the job brought me to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then being in Hawaii, I started surfing all the time, and I started doing art.
Yeah.
Like started painting. I met my husband here. And now we have a family.
Yeah.
And so here I am.
It's so cool how you said it was Boston, where you were kind of exploring through your studies, right?
Yeah.
Just of, you know, what it meant to be an urban planner, and I'm sure there's some element of design within just communities and spaces and
starting
how
urban
people
design. Yeah.
Right. And so and then you also mentioned too your other passion, right, of art. What specific art? I mean, I know, but just for our audience, like, what specific about art? What's your story in that?
Well, I ended up being drawn to art because I took this summer architecture class in New York during that transition year.
Wow.
And it was all hand drawing. And I remember just drawing for like 8 hours straight. And then at the end of the program, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be an architect.
Yeah.
And I like drawing for the first 5 hours. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not like 8 to 10 hours in one day.
Yeah.
And then that just got me drawing more. And then I like found watercolor.
Wow.
And so now my main medium is watercolor. And sometimes I draw and for fun, sketching with ink.
That's so cool.
But I use mostly watercolor.
Yeah. How through your explorations, you know, starting from this architecture class to what you're doing now, I mean, for what I see in your art, like you kind of found, you have kind of many different styles and different approaches, and but what's your methodology, kind of like how do you pick what you're gonna paint, how you go about, what's the process like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Loaded question.
I've been thinking about that because I just started a new collection.
Oh.
Right? And like literally I just found my direction like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Like last year I did a floral collection, which was watercolor and ink. And the year before I did an ocean collection.
Wow.
Mostly like aerial views of the ocean and somewhat abstract.
Yeah, so it's kind of nature that you're really inspired by.
Nature and ocean. I think I just try to find something that both technically I want to explore.
Sure.
And then aesthetically, just what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So last year I went through this period where I was just taking a lot of walks and I would notice a lot of landscaping. Like Honolulu has like amazing landscaping, right? Like hibiscus, plumeria, like tea leaves, like bougainvilleas, and there's just so much. And I was just like looking at them closer. And so I started sketching and painting these flowers because I was just looking at them closer, right? I like picked up, you know, daisies that look like weeds, right? From my apartment, like landscaping. And I grabbed them, like, oh, these are actually really pretty. And just kind of taking the time. I think that's what art really is valuable for.
Yes.
Like it just, when you start painting, you just start noticing, right? Like you start noticing like the shape of the flower, right? And the color and all the details.
Little minute details that you wouldn't if you're just kind of whisking on by, right?
Right, exactly. And that's with painting anything from a flower to like a scene. Or sometimes I sketch my friends. Like, I love like looking at your feature a little bit closer and just like drawing it out. And just
I'm going to be all self-cautious now.
Just paying more attention. You know? Sometimes we're so stuck in our head, right?
Sure, yeah.
And that drawing and painting just helps me to like pay attention.
Yeah.
So like this new collection I'm working on, I've been just kind of thinking about what kind of technique and subject matter.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go for it, and then you just go for what feels right.
Yeah. You mentioned watercolor kind of being one of your or your primary, I guess. What do you call it? Like medium, I guess, right?
Medium.
How did you? I mean, there's so many different when it comes to drawing and painting and anything of that nature with your hand. There's so many different tools and techniques, and you know, you can draw with a pen, or you can use a Bic pen, or there's even just pens in itself. There's like 20 million types of pens, right? But how did you kind of go through just that exploration process and kind of land on saying, oh, like, you know what, watercolors is just something that speaks to you?
Yeah, watercolor is great for, I think, I'm gonna say beginner artists, or people who don't realize they're an artist yet, right? Because like they're just so portable for sketching, right?
Yeah.
You can have like a small pan paint you just carry around with you,
Yeah, you just
and
need
a
water.
little notebook, and you just need water, right?
Yeah,
You can get like a brush that has water in it. And then I was using pens. I was drawing, and so you just get a black pen, right? I mean, I have many recommendations, and we won't go there, but you know, you pick like a couple of the right materials, and it was just so nice to be able to like transport it with me. You know, if I'm like waiting somewhere, I can like sketch a nearby scene or object.
Sure.
And watercolor, I continue with watercolor because the water picks up the pigments, and they like spread the pigments in a way that you can't always control it. Like the watercolor looks differently when it dries compared to when it's wet. It dries 30% lighter. But sometimes it also like dries in ways you're not expecting if you're not paying attention.
Right,
like if you're not watching it, the water can like take your pigment and push it up in a direction where you just don't. Like you're like, oh wow, and sometimes you're like, oh, I don't like how that worked out.
Scratched.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, wow, I didn't plan that. It looks amazing. There's this like magic.
Right?
There's lots of happy accidents, lots of magic in the way that watercolor, you know, just kind of comes into being with your painting. Lots of surprises.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I love watercolor because you can't redo it.
Once it's kind of bled, or once it's done its thing, then
you can't paint white on top. Like you just can't touch it, and you have to like start over with a new painting. Yeah. It's kind of like life, you know. Like you do, and then you're like, okay, I gotta stop, and then you just have to accept the result. Right?
Yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Live with the deal with it.
You can't stop working on it. Like you gotta stop. Like you can't continue.
I'm sure just even small things like the type of paper that you use, or even just Hawaii has so much humidity too, right?
Yeah.
And there's all these different things that go into art.
It's very different. Like if you paint outside versus painting inside in your studio under more controlled climate.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you can go down a rabbit hole of like what kind of paper to buy, what kind of brush to get, what kind of paints you want. So it's the constant learning, right? And exploration of finding something that speaks to you, finding your tools.
And so what kind of made you go from kind of doing it as a hobby? Because now, I mean, the way that I see you is that you're like a professional artist. Right?
Thank you.
but it's,
I still have a tough time saying that.
But it's true, right? It's true. I mean, if you look at her work and look at the quality of just you being able to just draw from your creativity and your explorations and actually turn that. I mean, we were just kind of doing our house tour, showing you like pieces that we hung up because we thought it just added such a amazing element to our house, right?
Thank you.
But what has that journey been like for you? Just kind of going from like more of a hobbyist to now like, hey, this is actually something you're doing professionally too, in addition to your work, right?
Yeah, it's a step-by-step process for sure. I started about 5-6 years ago, going on 6 years, and in the beginning it was just a lot of fun. I was just sketching, right, and a lot of it just made me happy, right? And then I had like a high school teacher ask me if I was selling something, right, or like I posted it on Facebook. And more people started asking, and
that must have been such a gragratifying.
Yeah, I was like, oh. He's like, how much is that painting? And I'm like, $20. I'm like
times 2.
Like, you're gonna pay me? Yeah, and then I started getting some commission requests from friends, mostly, and then friends told friends, and then and I continually evolved too as an artist, right? In terms of like exploring why I wanted to paint, and then a couple of galleries reached out to me.
That's so cool.
And then I was also proactive about like reaching out to a couple of people too, and I think, like there's that question like, oh, how much do I want to like invest in this, right?
Because it could probably become a full-time thing if you wanted it to, right?
Well, it takes up a lot of time for sure. Yeah. But also, giving myself some space to not be pressured. It's, to make it as an artist, right, financially. Because it does take some work and time.
Yeah. There's a lot involved just kind of, marketing yourself, getting your name out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Being able to have enough work to pay the bills and then some, right?
Yeah, because the art business ends up being half the time like business, right? And like
comes with the territory.
Painting. Yeah, exactly. So then, there was a point where I was like, I'm spending so much time on the business that I'm like not painting as much, right?
Yeah.
And so trying to balance that out with my job as an urban planner, and then just continue try to like embrace like new opportunities.
Yeah.
And while trying to give myself a rest and a break as well, just kind of finding that happy medium. And it's a journey.
Yeah. I actually do remember one of the first times that we did intersect. I think it was at an art fair in downtown, and we actually ended up buying. Yeah. Yes. And we actually ended up buying a piece from you too.
We did. I was so happy.
Right?
Yeah, that was.
No, but I just loved, I think really what I enjoyed about like that piece for us, it just like super like stuck out to me, and then just you being able to. Because to me, it was more about the art, right? It was about like you being a part of what's happening in the community, and just the way that you guys are interacting with people, and kind of turning it into, not just like this is your little shop, but it was like kind of an event just to be able to just to hang out and to.
Pre-COVID, like I did
remember those days.
Right?
Way back in the day.
I did a few of those fairs, and actually love doing. I just love meeting people in the community, right? And just talking story, like, oh, so what kind of art do you like, or what is it, or just asking them about themselves, right? And I did a few of them, and you just like meet people, and then your business grows little bit by little bit. Yeah. Because like the people who connect with my art, like, it's been a blessing. Like, more and more people connecting with my art, and it helps when you like see them face to face, right? You see somebody face to face, and I miss those events.
I can't wait to be at your next showing or your next gallery or whatever thing where we could actually not be wearing masks and we could be having food and drinks and just hanging out, right? Yeah, that'd be really sweet. So just the medium of art, it's such a cool thing, especially with painting, right? Where there's a form of kind of narrative, right, that's found through any kind of painting, whether because you're capturing scenes, or maybe you're capturing moments, or like maybe you're, there might be some sentimental value depending on maybe the person that you're painting, or maybe the animal that you're painting, right? But I'm so curious, like, do you have any stories of how maybe something that you were commissioned for, or maybe even just something that you painted, but just kind of a story that came from there that goes kind of just beyond the painting in itself, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's a painting I think of when you mentioned that. Yeah. I mean, in Hawaii, we talked about how there's just so much inspiration, right, in nature and the ocean. And, it's like painting, I think, helps me to like reconnect to, right? Reconnect to the earth in that way. And as the surfing, right? So one morning I was paddling out, and I surf in the morning. Dawn Patroller.
And I was paddling out, and it was like just beautiful colors, and the moon was full, and it was like pastel, kind of purpley, pink, blue. Just the colors you get at that hour. And I'm just paddling, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And what's amazing about surfing in the morning is that like the sky changes like that. Like instantly, you look away and you're like, oh, it's already different, right? The sun's already out. And so I was just like really like looking at that scene, and then maybe a couple of weeks later I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to paint that. So I did a mosaic of like with the moon and then some like sunrise. Oh my gosh. Colors. And I made the colors too bright, and so I did it again. I painted it again. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it more pastel, And I have that painting like hung in my kitchen. Oh, and so it just, cool. It's not just the painting, and I was exploring a new a technique style, but it was also every time I look at that painting, I think of that memory.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, this is one I'm keeping. You're
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
sell
exactly.
this one.
I'm not gonna sell that one. I'm like reliving, you know, that moment where it's like being in the present again.
Yeah.
Right? Like to just like appreciate what's in the present.
Yeah, I love how you captured, just something so symbolic to you, and just that, you know, I don't want to say ritual, but just that going out to dawn patrol. There's just something special about that hour, and then how like every second I feel like it's so elusive, right?
Yeah.
And then even with like surfing, as you know, like there's like every wave is unique, right? There's no way you can ever catch the same wave because it's just the way water forms, and I don't know the physics and stuff behind it.
Yeah.
But even just at that dawn patrol or that magic hour, how it's like in this moment, like you wait 2 seconds later, it's like everything's gonna radically change.
And maybe because it changes so quickly, it helps you appreciate like, oh, I gotta soak this in now because I know it's gonna be different, right? In like 5 minutes, like clouds will be different, lighting and color will be different. But I think what I've also realized through surfing and through art is that like every minute of our lives are different, right? It's hard for us to appreciate it and to really remember, like especially like during COVID, you're doing the same thing day after day. But really, like, you know, what we're doing now, we're never going to do again, I think. At least, like, in this way, at this particular moment. And just, like, when I'm in the ocean, I, like, really just feel so much gratitude. I'm able to embody that more. Like, you know, okay, I'm in the office. Like, this might feel like drudgery sometimes. But, you know, it's like, actually, this hour is going to be different from the next hour, which is going to be different from the next day and week.
I love that. I love that perspective. I'm going to ask you an interesting question. If you could radically challenge your art, and maybe, I don't know if this is something that you've already thought of, or maybe just like a different spin or a different twist, or maybe a different way of painting, or maybe painting on something different, or but what's one way if resources didn't matter to you, but if you could just kind of take your art to the next level, what's something that you might consider?
If resources were not an issue, I would definitely paint a lot bigger. I'm used to painting pretty small, right? And it's starting with sketchbooks. It's always kind of small, and I carry it around. Even in my studio, which is a home studio, so I don't have that much space. You know, I paint like 8x10s, 11x14. I think 18x24 is the largest. But I was just at Hawaiian Graphics, and they have like a 22x40, like one piece, and
you're probably like drooling.
I know, I was like, this paper is so beautiful.
The things I can do.
But that also means like I need a lot bigger brush, and it also means like I need a lot more paint.
Yeah, a whole different
you know, I can't buy the small paint tubes. I have to buy the big ones, and all of that is resources, and I need like to be undisturbed for 2 days, right? And like empty, you know, floor or a table. I'd probably have to paint on the floor. I would love to paint larger. Like sometimes you feel like you need courage, you know, to paint larger. You don't want to like waste the paper or whatnot. But I know that's something that I want to do, and I will do at some point. But that's that's the goal.
Who are some of your, or if there's one or two artists that are just, you know, really, really big inspirations to you, and maybe they've inspired your style, or maybe just reviewing their work, like it just makes you want to paint more? Like who would one or two of those people be?
I would say an early watercolor teacher of mine. His name is Robert Dvorak, and he's based in California. But he used to do workshops, like one-day workshops at the Museum of Art.
Very cool.
Museum of Art School, and he really helped, I think, like launch me. He was very supportive.
Oh, so you actually took his class?
I took his. I've taken a couple of his classes.
Oh my gosh!
And then I also did he does a trip to Molokai every year. If anyone's interested in doing watercolor in Molokai, he does this awesome. He organizes it and does the teaching, and he's really inspiring and also encouraging and like great energy, and I always learn a lot from him. I
can just imagine the sessions that you had with him, just pushing your art to the and then just being around that other creatives in that space, right? It just it's just everybody's just inspiring one another through that.
Like exploring together. Kind of. And then another art teacher who's been really impactful to me, his name is Chris Zorn. And he used to also teach at Lina Kona as well before COVID. And he helped me to focus on like going deeper in my craft, like using just one brush and practicing like so many sessions with just 2 paint colors, right? And using the same paper, right? Like, you know, go deep, right? And like, you know, really understand your materials and to understand yourself in a way as you express.
Jen, I haven't known you for a long time, but in the few years that we have gotten to know each other, it's been just amazing seeing your art, your passion for art, and even just your styles just kind of go to next levels. You're always leveling up, and I'm just seeing, you know, just your love for the craft. Just like, I was like, oh, can anybody love painting anymore? But then I said, oh, then I see your next thing, and it's like, oh, I guess that is possible. So I just love and appreciate that about you. But unfortunately, our time is coming down.
That was so fast.
That was really like, I feel like we just did introductions, right? But I just want to allow you just to have the space. If you could address this front camera here, and if there's anything you want to promote, or maybe if you have a message of inspiration, but I just want to allow you to have a time to shine.
See, what's my message? I think one of my messages as an artist, and hopefully as a teacher one day, is, you know, if you have any inkling to try watercolor art, just give yourself a try, right? I think we as people, our culture tells us we're not creative, or you have to be a certain type of artist. And through my own journey, and then like how I see others as well, I think everyone, we're all creative, and we have something that wants to come out of us. So I would encourage you to explore and play with art. And if you need a little direction, or if you want to check out my art, as Alex mentioned, I have a website. It's janetmeinkelau.com. That's JANET. MEINKELAU.com. And I have Instagram, and if you have questions or whatnot, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for your time.
So awesome. The amazing painter, amazing artist, amazing inspiration. This is Janet Meinke-Lau. Again, and then we'll put her information also in the description box below if you ever want to have a chat with her, or maybe you want to purchase some of her art, or maybe you want to do an art session together, right?
Or
maybe go surfing together. Capture those Dawn Patrol moments together, right? But thank you so much just for taking the time to truck it all the way over to YPO to have a conversation. And
thank you for your time, Alex, and inviting me to just share, you know, and I've always appreciate like the genuine enthusiasm that you have, and the care that you put into everything you do. So really thank
you so much. You can keep going. No. But again, so you can contact Janet, and but that's about it for this episode of I Am Talk. So be sure to stay tuned, and maybe like in your next season, maybe you'll have something else to promote, or you never know. You never know.
There's always something, I think.
But thank you again for your time, and tune in next time for the next episode, or maybe the next time we see Janet. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
instaMERSION.
Wow, that was just a sneak preview of what's to come next here on I Am Talk. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap that bell icon to get the latest notifications on the upcoming episodes here on I Am Talk. So who's ready to talk story? Let's go.